husband invited his cousin for our honeymoon without telling me and argued when I declined. His family is furious because I abandoned him at the airport. 3 days before my honeymoon, my spouse invited his brother. Although he's his cousin, it's still weird, and I didn't go on the trip since I was so annoyed. I, 27F, and my husband Joey, 27M, met through friends and married 2 weeks ago after almost 4 years of dating. Italy was our honeymoon destination, but it was cancelled for the reasons indicated. The worst thing was that he didn't care to consult me before making such a significant choice. Without asking. He booked all the flights and stuff for his cousin Pete, 28M. It was convenient that he told me all of this 30 minutes before our flight, and I decided I couldn't do it. During our wait, he told us we would have 2 days to ourselves before Pete joined us, and just sprung it on me so casually like we had discussed it earlier. When I asked him what he meant by that, he said he didn't want me to freak out like I was. But he had invited Pete to join us on our honeymoon after 2 days to distract him from his circumstances. Pete's wife, Julia, sought a divorce around the time we got married. We returned from our wedding, she said. Attending our wedding made her see she wasn't meant for him. She was fed up with him and had fallen in love with someone else. She didn't name him, but she said she couldn't remain with him and be dishonest to herself and him, so she had to go. Pete had been miserable about it for weeks after we got married, so Joey invited him to come with us to cheer him up. As a reasonable person, I was irritated and informed him this was not okay. I said it was immaterial if Pete was joining us on our honeymoon, didn't care what he said. But I wanted him to cancel immediately. But he argued with me and called me callous. Pete was divorcing Julia, his high school sweetheart, after almost 3 years of marriage. Now she no longer loved him. As his family, we had a moral obligation to help him through this difficult time. He wanted me to know that coming on our honeymoon with us would provide him a well-deserved vacation from everything. He stated we had 2 days to ourselves before he arrived, which was enough for me. I was furious and exasperated, so I grabbed my bags and told him I didn't want to go on our honeymoon anymore. So I urged him to enjoy the vacation with Pete and left almost quickly. He tried to catch up, but I ran away, caught the first cab, and went to my parents' place. I've been upset about everything since staying here. Over the past 4 years, Joey and I have had ups and downs. They've always fought like other couples, but this is weird. I believe he went on the trip with Pete, which enraged me more. After I left the airport, he kept texting me to come back and said he couldn't cancel everything since he had already paid, and some of it was non-refundable, so he didn't want to lose his deposit. He had to go on the trip, and urged me to reconsider and return. He insisted that he was doing this for Pete and promised a second honeymoon for the two of us. He only asked me to compromise once. The fact that he surprised me at the last minute and I couldn't do anything about it upset me the most. He was manipulative and dishonest, and I won't tolerate it. I need my partner to be honest and trustworthy, but after what he did, I don't think that'll happen. Last night, I texted him that I was going to file for a divorce or annulment and wanted this relationship ended. I was also disappointed. But I saw no other option. I don't think we can shrug and go on after what happened. I can't ignore things and pretend it's okay. I had to accept that our marriage would only last 2 weeks, even if it hurt. Not my fault. However, he replied that I was overreacting and that we could discuss this when he returned from the trip. I was already furious that he had opted to go on the trip with his cousin, so that was annoying. It was ludicrous. I said his behavior was absurd and he couldn't expect me to forgive and go on. I told him that I didn't care what he believed, I just wanted to leave this relationship as soon as possible. I was going to chat to my lawyer and prepare everything while waiting for him to return because I needed his authorization to marry. I blocked him to end this. I need peace of mind and time to comprehend this. I think his family can't tolerate that. My in-laws sent me several texts this morning saying that what I was doing was wrong and that I should give him a chance to repair it. They agree that his actions were wrong, but they think I overreacted by ending the marriage. And why not? Obviously, they'll support their son over mine. We've had a fantastic relationship for years, so I assumed they'd realize what he did was terrible, but they think I should give him a chance. My parents say I should do what's right, and I think I should. Divorce. I'm confused by people's reactions so far. His parents say we should wait to talk to each other, straighten things out, and decide after he returns from his trip. My parents believe my choices will be good. They are neutral about this, and I know they mean it when they say they will always be on my side. 2 of my pals have also discussed this, although they are divided. Some suggest I should wait for him to return, discuss this with him, then act. Others think my current actions are right. They think I should get an annulment to end things because of what he did. So mad for dissolving my marriage because my husband invited his divorced cousin on our honeymoon? Many people have asked about Joey and Pete's closeness, and I'd say they're pretty close. From what I know, they've been great friends since childhood and are close. I don't think that's an excuse to invite him on our honeymoon and expect me to agree. I didn't know he was divorcing. I don't think anyone in the family knew until this was discovered. As far as I know, Julia filed for a divorce after we got married, but the proceedings won't start until after he returns from this vacation. Julia and I met on holidays but have never been pals. I'm not going to tell her about this because we don't have anything else to talk about. I had no idea who was in love, as many people have asked. I don't know who it was, so I can't say. Joey didn't get into it, but if I find out who she's in love with, or if she's having an affair, I'll write it here and keep you updated. I've discussed my information in my post, and that's it. Since we've always kept separate accounts and records, I don't think we'll have any issue separating that if we get our management alert. We also have several shared assets. I think that's going to be easy, but I don't know what I'm doing right now, so I haven't thought that far. I'm just trying to digest what's happening, which is hard. Update 1. I told my lawyer to make out the papers for this marriage in alt. The task was really challenging. It's been about a week, and he still blocks me despite having alternative means to contact me. I don't know what to say. He couldn't contact me since I blocked his phone number, but he could have texted me on any social media platform if he wanted to, but I haven't received a single message. His parents called me once, and then went silent. I had to make this decision because I've been feeling bad about it for days. I considered letting him come back and then, after speaking and resolving things in person, we could proceed, but now I think we can't. I went to our house, got my stuff, and moved back in with my parents because I still had the keys. I'll probably talk to him when he returns so we can sell all the furnishings we bought together and stop the lease on that property or remove myself from it. After talking to a few folks, I'll start looking for a separate place. I want to be busy, so I don't worry about my life and how miserable I am. I keep expecting he'll text me, but it hasn't occurred yet. I hope things will work out, but I think it's doubtful. Parents and most friends have been helpful. I appreciate that. Joey and I were meant to return from our honeymoon in 2 days, so if he and Pete keep to our arrangement, they would return in 2 days and then I can finally talk to him and end this. Although saying it stings, I know it's the proper thing to do and I must end this for my own benefit. I hope his return goes well. Joey and Pete returned from their excursion yesterday, per our itinerary. After they returned, he messaged me on Instagram to discuss. Although I was working at the time, I was so outraged when I received that SMS that I replied and told him we couldn't talk. Because the time to talk had passed and he had not contacted me for a week, even though he had stuffed up and injured me. I had no interest in talking to him, and we had nothing to discuss. I also told him that I had spoken to my lawyer and that we could annul our marriage now that he was returned. He didn't respond for a few minutes. But then he said he was sorry for not reaching me earlier and was only trying to help Pete. He stated he understood my anger. There were many things I didn't know and many aspects he had to consider. If I spoke to him, he could explain why he did these things. I wanted to know his motives, so that intrigued me. Even though I wasn't sure what could have justified this, I wanted to know if he had a serious explanation. After thinking about it, I told him to come over to my parents' place today, and in the evening to talk things. I doubt I'll see him again. Whatever the conditions, but at least I'll get answers from him. Undoubtedly, I deserve that much. My lawyer sent off the announcement papers this morning, so even if I don't get a good answer, I can get him to fill in the paperwork, and we can move forward. No matter what, we had to meet, and I couldn't avoid him forever. So I'll finish this quickly. He should have a good reason for all of this, or it will screw with my head even more and make me much more miserable. Anyway, he's coming in a few hours, so I'm mentally prepping. Update 3: Joey arrived and went an hour ago. After an hour, I'm still reeling from what he said. He apologized to me when he came by, looking awkward. He told me that he realizes what he did was bad, and that he damaged my trust, thus it will be difficult or impossible to recover. He won't make me return or ask me to rectify things. It was shocking, since I had expected him to attempt to make things work since it seemed like he would. However, when he stated he understood where I was coming from, and why I no longer wanted to be married to him, I assumed this would be a different debate. He told me that Pete had always been his brother, and that they had grown up together, so he understood it couldn't have been easy to divorce and find out his wife was in love with someone else. He invited him on our honeymoon because he felt horrible for the guy. There was more. The tip of the iceberg. It turns out he invited Pete not because he felt awful for him, but because Julia was in love with him. I believed he was joking. I was unsure how to react for a few minutes. I asked him how he knew. At what time did he learn? He said he found out because Julia confessed the night before our wedding. He even opened his phone to show me her texts. I couldn't believe it because I'd always noted that he and Julia had a good platonic relationship since I'd known his family. I had never considered that she was in love with Joey because I had always seen them as friends, but that was definitely not the case. I asked him why he hadn't told me about this text because it felt essential, and I should have known that someone in the family had expressed their love to him one night, before our wedding as his fiancée. Joey informed me he didn't want to cause trouble the night before the wedding, so he didn't notify me. The rationale was lame, and I told him not telling me was a stupid idea. Again, he never fought me but accepted that he was confused. He kept quiet to prevent drama, and after our wedding, he told Julia that this would never happen in person. He stated he took Julia away for a few minutes during the reception and inquired if she had met what she had said in the text. When she confirmed it, he told her she had to leave Pete, because she was wasting his time if she didn't love him. He deserved better. What if she didn't tell him? He would. Julia didn't want to tell him, so they argued. She appeared to think that telling Pete the truth and leaving him would be a waste because Joey was not going to break up with me, regardless of whether she loved him. Even if she wasn't happy with him, she was pleased. Joey claimed she was disgusting. She should leave him if she didn't love him. My husband allegedly had a major role in his brother's divorce out of guilt. He invited me on our honeymoon so he could spend time with us and not feel as miserable. He told me that he knew Pete loved Julia, knew this would be hard for him, and didn't want to leave him. After listening, I tried to remain quiet for a few minutes to assimilate all this information. Then I asked him why he hadn't been honest from the start. His sheer lack of candor generated all these relationship-destroying issues. That stumped him. He stated he didn't want to get involved because he feared it would lead to more drama and confrontations, something he wasn't good at. After this conversation, he said I could still seek the annulment, but he wanted to tell me the truth. I informed him that annulling the marriage was not exciting, but it was necessary at this time. He was plainly struggling to be honest with me, which was not good for a marriage. I thanked him for coming straight, but it was too late. He took me for granted and left me alone because he was trying so hard to not leave Pete alone. I then told him how terrible I had been for 2 days and that he hadn't checked on me, which wounded me most. He tried to defend himself by saying he was trying to help Pete and do something sincere, but I told him it didn't matter. When we started dating, he promised to always be there for me and show me how much he loved me, even after marriage. He promised these things, but after that, I didn't sense his love or support. I told him I understood that he felt lost when Julia sent him that message, but if I were him, I would have told my fiancée, the person I love most, and then we could deal with this together. He didn't respond and admitted he'd erred. After thinking about it, I told him I still loved him, but it didn't matter. Relationships required more than love. It was evident by now. I told him I didn't care if I loved him. We needed time to recuperate after everything that happened, therefore I think we should split up. When I stated that, he nodded and I saw tears in his eyes. I felt awful, but we had no other choice. Despite my horrible mood, we filled out the papers and will get our marriage dissolved in a few days. My brain is still processing what I learned tonight, so it will be hard to go on. At least I'll try. I almost broke down during our last hug before he departed today, but I kept my cool. That may be necessary till I'm done with this. I think I'll need luck. Update 4. I guess I broke up with Joey over a year ago. After the marriage was annulled, I moved out of our house and into my own apartment a few weeks later. My adjustment to living alone after years with Joey was challenging, but I had to get accustomed to it. The first few months after the breakup, we avoided one another and didn't talk. We were invited to a wedding of one of our shared friends 4 months ago, so we met again. We met during the event and were cordial. Of course it was different, and I'm pleased. I had expected it to be difficult to see him again, but it wasn't, and we're now friends but still on speaking terms. While Pete was getting divorced, Joey told him why, and Julia was in love with him, but he cut him off and they no longer talk. So taking him on our honeymoon didn't cushion the pain as he expected, and we joked that maybe we should have gone on the honeymoon ourselves to save our marriage. We had joy hanging together with our friends and reminiscing. After I left, he moved out of our former place a couple of months later because he had no one to split the rent with, and it was getting too expensive. I was thrilled when he informed me he had resigned his job and started something new, something he had often talked about when we were together. We found we lived 2 blocks apart after I told him about my life. I don't know the future, but I'm pleased in this neutral area. To be honest, I like this neutral space. I'm not sure if I've moved on from him, but being friends with him makes me happy. Our relationship may have ended, but this friendship may.